So, hey guys, welcome or welcome back to Rooted Goddess Garden. And today I am setting up zone two. So, I'm starting this project with the 4 gallon container that I found last year. A neighbor of mine was getting rid of it, and I was like, hey, party over here. And I started with the 1363rd size for whatever reason, and it is absolutely too small. Um, One of the things I realized real quickly was that I needed to use the softer tubing that I have. I have two different kinds, and one of them is a little bit harder and it needs to be warmer to use it. But you also need to cut that tubing to an angle so it will kind of go in a little bit easier. But after making one of these with the bucket, I realized the bucket material was a little bit more forgiving, and I am looking at that tube in real time and it's bending. So it did not have enough room. And in fact, it pinched so hard, it was creating like a hole and I could see through it. So that was a guaranteed leak. But 732nd is the size that you want to use if you decide you want to have gravity watering anywhere and you want to make this as painless as possible. So you will kind of struggle a little bit to get it in because it is such a tight fit, but that is absolutely what you want to have, because the overall goal, like I said, is to maybe get around having to use the silicone, so you can just take the containers apart as they break, or as you want to move them, or however. So that was at least my thought process. And I didn't have the goal of putting the tubing in the middle. I kind of wanted it to sit in the recess part because those bottles have always like a little bit of a reservoir. And man, it is hot. It's not even full on summertime, and we're in the upper 80s, tapping on 90, feels like 90 anyway. So I just keep finagling. And I find it was easier to use the softer tubing at the beginning of the bucket and then saving the harder material for closer to the soil, and then maybe even using the softer poly tubing for directing the emitters. But both tubings got used in this process. So I'm using another supply that I had from last year. It is a 15-gallon pool bucket. Now, I use those buckets to store things. This year, I will be repurposing them and using them as water containers. I ripped out the old irrigation tubing that I had, and I was attempting to use those gallon containers, but I knew that was not going to last long. I put that candy netting over it. It's like those candy bags that they have at the dollar store, or I think I got those from Hobby Lobby, whatever. They were on clearance. And to attach it, I just used two zip ties from a previous project from that cage that I made for my butterfly area. I brought my little box of those barbs over, and I'm just figuring out where I want the inline switch. I want it to be closer to the top. That way I don't have to do any weird contorting. Like, I'm already just all over the place uh with trying to put this together. So I cut some. Probably should have made it a little bit closer, but I figure if I got a different type of container, something, anyways, whatever, the tubing, it could all be changed and worked out later as I decide I might want to do something else with this project. So I used as much of the that softer poly tubing that I have and saved the harder material for attaching it to the ground. But then I think it was just easier over here because I was repurposing the pieces that were already there and just adding the half-gallon drip emitters. So it's my sincere hope that in the summertime, this area will be nicely hydrated because the soil is very thick. It's clay soil. So, for all intents and purposes, it is easier and more effective to have a slower drip for that type of soil. And then, as needed, I can come and turn this off and on, especially when I know it's going to rain because I am constantly checking in the garden. Um, and I have a lot of garden friends. I garden with my aunt, and she tells me when it's going to rain. So it is absolutely important to me that I have those inline switches where I can see them. I don't anticipate, especially this container, collecting a lot of rain. It will probably be something that I fill with rain barrel water, but that is fine. I am completely okay with that. And I'm absolutely happy with the systems that I have set up. Like, I feel like I'm going to be absolutely on top of my watering game this year, especially since it's going to be a lot less time to fill up the reservoirs versus trying to sit there and hand water. Not only that, the soil is being watered directly, like the plants are getting the water at the root and nothing goes to waste. I'm using whatever I collected in that gallon, even though I know it's just nothing but sentiment. And it is now time to test because even though that polytubing went in there and it's a snug fit, there is a possibility that it may still leak. And I don't want to waste any of the water. And I don't want it to leak in the rim of that pool bucket and create a mosquito breeding ground. So I'm just filling it. And this is 4 gallons of water. I was also thinking about my fertilization options. And this week for fertilizer day, I decided that I was going to install my comfrey compost tea directly into the oyas and into the watering systems just because that comfrey tea, it was aerated and it is concentrated. So it needs as much dilution as possible. And I felt like this would be the most effective way. My mom has decided to come and check on the project to see if it gives her stamp of approval. And this is the whole system set up. Um, I turned it off because I didn't want to have the tomatoes be drenched overnight, but I probably should have left it on. I'm going to go tomorrow and turn it on and just see and let it have a day of functioning. And as I'm looking at this video, I really need to work on whatever is eating the Swiss chard because it absolutely looks beautiful over here. If you stayed this long, thank you for watching. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to make a video about 3 and 4. And if I do, I'm going to make it uh go a lot faster because I do have to figure out what is going on with my cucumbers. Not with my cucumbers. I have to figure out what's going on with my tomatoes and my bell peppers that are over in the cucumber area. So that will be zone 3, and then my final zone will be where all of the trees are. And I'm already thinking about using that 15-gallon pool bucket as the reservoir for the trees because I have so many. But until next time, thanks for watching. I hope this helps you on your watering journey. Coming to you from zone 9B, Houston, Texas. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.